I'm an Arab-Israeli content creator.
You're an Arab, you're Muslim,
True.
you're black.
Breathe, but that's alright.
Yo, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's your boy again, Shady, one and only. And today, guys, we are back again. And today, guys, I've got a special guest for you. I've watched him a few times, and I'm telling you, to be honest, this guy, I just said I had to bring him on my channel. So, today, I'll let him introduce himself. Can you introduce yourself to the people?
Well, first thing first, I want to thank you, man. You know, being sitting here with you and talking to you after the couple of amazing days we spent together. So it's very awesome. So my name is Tamer Masudin. I'm an Arab-Israeli content creator.
Sorry. You are an Arab Israeli in one word.
Yes, sir.
How's that possible?
Well, it's not that complicated, really. So I'm an Arab. I grew up in an Arab Bedouin community in the southern parts of Israel, which there I lived until I was, let's say, 13, 14. Then we moved to a very small Bedouin community called Segev Shalom, in which I lived up until I was 19, 18. Then I moved out of my parents' house. But yeah, we are Arab Israelis, meaning that we are citizens of the State of Israel. I carry my passport with me all the time, my ID with me all the time. I can vote. If I want to, I can go to the parliament and be selected as a prime minister, if possible, even.
Wait, stop. I'm sorry. Like this is all blowing my mind. You're telling me you're an Arab and you have equal rights.
That is true.
Here, you can vote. You can go for positions.
You can go for higher positions. I mean, we had judges in the Supreme Court who are Arab Israeli. We have ministers. We had ministers who are Arab Israeli. We also had, still have members of the Knesset. The Knesset is, by the way, is our parliament. Is a house of, let's say, our version of House of Commons.
Okay.
And you have two Arab parties in the parliament itself, which not always, sometimes they don't agree with each other, which shows you like the whole democracy of it. So even when it comes to our politics, we have representations of each and every different group. And it's I worked in the Israeli parliament for a while. I was an intern for the Arab committee in the Israeli parliament. So there's an Arab committee for let's say advancing interest for Arab citizens in the country. So I was there. I was working as a spokesperson, and I've met all of, if not all of our Arab Israeli parliament members as well.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm finding all of this really surprising. Because I'm from London, originally Nigerian guys, Nigerian in the house.
Nigeria.
Yeah, but I'm from London,
right?
And I've heard so much about Israel, so much negative PR, and I've heard that it's an apartheid state, the apartheid and things.
Right.
I heard that there are no Muslims here, and if Muslims do come here, like you mostly find them in the prisons or there's discrimination or something. Like how's life been in this country for you growing up?
Right. So we say it how it is. We don't filter anything, right?
Yeah.
So overall, I think to me at least, being the person that I am, the State of Israel is probably the best place in the Middle East that I can see myself living and contributing to society. We've been members of the society, integrated in the society since 1948, since the State of Israel declared independence. And obviously we had everything that is going on. I come from a family of people who served in the army. I did 2 years of national service, which is basically 2 years of volunteering. And what I did was working with Arab and Jewish kids from mixed cities like Lod, Jerusalem, for example, in which I worked with in the sector of education. And in education, you get to meet all kinds of people. You get to meet black, white, Jewish, non-Jewish, and all of that. And somehow, some way, you need to find a way to work all of this together.
Yes.
Especially if we're doing something like we're going to a school trip or something like that, which gave me a lot of understanding of the Israeli society and its fabric. And I think what you said regarding that is a lot of people have misconceptions. So they rely heavily on traditional media, social media, even to an extent, TikTok, Instagram, all of that. Which a lot of it has a lot of bias against Israel, against my country.
Yes.
And some people.
Sorry, I like how you say against Israel, against my country. Because I'm still trying to figure it out how you're an Arab, you're Muslim,
true,
you're black,
true.
I was told to come on this trip. I was told by a few people in London that they were like, "Why are you going to a genocide state. They said to me, as soon as you come in, they're gonna spit on you.
Right.
Yeah, that they say, oh, you're a Christian. They're gonna spit on you. They say like, don't
Gonna
waste your
spit
time.
on
They said
you.
go to Palestine, man.
And get a racist against you, all these kind of nonsense that I've heard.
A lot, and I see it on the media as well.
Right.
I've seen clips. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen clips.
True.
And I just watch it. I'm thinking, is there a context to it? You know, but like, where did all of this come from? 'Cause
Right.
they say there's no smoke without fire. So where did all of this come from?
Well, I think first of all, a lot of it comes from, if we go back in time to 1948 itself. You see, when we declared independence and the modern state of Israel, was established, for many Jews around the world, that was like, the rebirth of the Jewish nation again, because they spent roughly more than 2,000 years in the diaspora, and obviously you had horrible things that happened, for example, the Holocaust and all of that, World War II and all of that. And for a lot of people, it felt like, the safety and the security of the Jewish people can't be in the hands of anyone who, is not Jewish, because it would be very difficult to explain to countries, to leaders, why it's very important to protect a group of people that has been discriminated for so long.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, all these kind of things that you hear, I mean, even I've seen these videos that people are talking about. And, like, the first time that I saw, I was like, oh, that is nasty. I don't want people to come into my country and visit it and have people, being rude to them. That being said, that is not the Israeli society, right? That is not even 0.2% of the Israeli society, right? Because when you go and you visit Jerusalem, and when you go, and for those who want to visit Jerusalem and want to see the holy sites, people will welcome you. I mean, you experienced it yourself here in Tel Aviv. People will tell you, like, come on, have our food, come on, this is the kind of things that we want to enjoy.
Yeah.
Why? Because we understand that with all the bias that we have and we've seen against all the false information that we've seen against our country in the past at least 2 years, that it takes a lot of courage for people to come and visit, because again, your friends telling you, like, why would you visit a racist state?
Yeah.
And when you have all these people telling you, like, all these horrible things about a country, you don't necessarily want to visit. And even if you want to visit, it takes a lot of courage to do that.
True.
And I think I tell people, like, if you really want to know a place, come visit it. Like, come visit it, meet the good, meet the bad, the ugly, the complicated, all of that, and have your own perspective on the country, right? And yeah, like, for example, even me, like, people get surprised and ask me, like, what, you an Israeli citizen? I was like, yeah, and you're Arab?
I'm finding it hard to believe, because like you told me, and I was thinking about it. I was like, what was he talking about? I was
Right.
like, he's Muslim Arab. He's got equal rights, and
Right.
This advocacy. Well, I don't know if it's advocacy or what, but I've watched your content,
Right.
and I found it very interesting.
That is
At some
awesome.
point, I thought that maybe there's just something behind it. There must be some, backstory. Maybe there's some propaganda behind it. So I watched a couple of them, and from the way you talked, you sounded, and your authenticity, I felt like, okay, there's more to this person, and I wanted to meet you. I was so shocked when I saw you here in this conference. I was really shocked. I was like, wow, no one told me you were gonna come.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then, like, your content, like, what inspired you to start creating the content you create?
Right. So I'll go back to my roots. So as I told you, like, I was an educator, right? And for a really long time, I felt like, I know my country really well, because there's not a single member of the Israeli society from any ethnicity, any religion, any background that I haven't met, that I haven't sat and talked to understand, like, what they want, what their aspirations, how do they feel about the country, all of that. And what drove me to start making content and talk about my country was actually two things. One, it was the Abraham Accords, right?
I heard of that.
Yeah. So for those of the viewers who don't know what the Abraham Accords are, it was a normalization pact that was signed, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, between the State of Israel, the Kingdom of Morocco, Bahrain, UAE. Let's see who I forgot. Morocco, Bahrain, UAE, and Sudan, if I'm not mistaken, as well. And that was historic. That was the first moment since the peace agreement that was signed with Jordan, in which, we finally have let's say, taken a few steps towards peace in the Middle East, right? And when I saw that, I was like, man, this is awesome. This is cool. I'll get to visit.
Peace is coming.
Yeah. I get to visit these places. We get to do business. We get to, to make sure, like, we can share technology and all of that. But then and that specifically drove me to like people-to-people diplomacy. So before even making content, I was traveling to Morocco and creating initiatives there. Creating initiatives with Emiratis, Bahrainis, and trying to like see how we can make this peace normalization process not as cold as like the one that we have with Jordan and Egypt, and how can we, make sure that the societies meet as much as they can. Then 2 years ago, October 7th happened, and not a lot of people know this, but it wasn't only Israeli Jews that were killed and kidnapped by Hamas, the terrorist organization at that time.
Okay.
It was also the Bedouin community, people from my community who were kidnapped.
Sorry. So it wasn't just the Jews?
No. They also kidnapped foreign nationals, students of foreign countries who came to Israel to study in agriculture mostly.
Sorry to cut you
Sure.
short. I mean, I heard of like some foreign like students like being also victims, right? But my thought, because to be honest, like when it comes to the Middle East, I had zero knowledge.
Right.
I only started just hearing things from TikTok, from Instagram, and Twitter, and that's how I got to hear about Israel being a apartheid state.
Right.
So my thinking was, I definitely believe maybe the terrorists were organized and they knew that maybe these foreign students maybe had links to the country, maybe they were Jewish or maybe something. So I don't think it was random. So now you're telling me that just anyone.
Yeah, and I started working in a company that collected data and monitored anti-Semitism on October 8th. So the day after the war broke out, the very next day I started working there. And it wasn't, something that happened, it wasn't like, I came to that company, started working for them on October 7th. I was like, hey guys, I need to do something about anti-Semitism, so find me a job. No, we were talking about me joining the company even at July of the same year. So it took like a couple of months until that was finalized. And all the videos, all the content, everything raw, unfiltered from the beginning of the war I've seen.
Yes.
And I've seen, Arab civilians, talking with the Hamas terrorists and telling them, I am an Arab, I am a Muslim, I'm not in the army, I don't do these kind of things, I don't have anything to do with these kind of things, I'm not militant, and they still got shot and they still got kidnapped. Still got shot and kidnapped. And all of these videos, by the way, are online. So if people want to look for them and have the stomach to see that, I mean, it's very graphic. I don't necessarily encourage that, but it is that. And when
it doesn't make sense to me, because I know like have a plan but they want to take over the whole of the country, and they're like freedom fighters. That's what they say, freedom fighters.
Yeah.
But if you're a freedom fighter, then why are you attacking people that sort of belong to the same faith as you as well? If you say you're protecting these, so that doesn't make sense to me.
I'll say why. Because to Hamas and to the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, those terrorist organizations, they view us Arab Israelis as collaborators. They view us, for example, as traitors. So when they see someone like me, who's like, I don't see the Palestinian issue in terms of the political side of it as my issue really. I care about, I live in my country. I care about how much taxes do I have to pay. My infrastructure, school, of course, man, of course. Yeah. And it's not because I don't have any regards for the Palestinian or that sort, but I live in a country and I pay taxes, and there are things that are important to me that I want to advance. And it's not necessarily this issue that has been plaguing the Middle East since 1948 and even before that, right? So they look at people like me. And people like my family, people like, who are integrated in the Israeli society. By the way, roughly 23% of the Israeli society are Israeli Arabs, right?
I found that really shocking.
It is. So it's like it's a huge number. It's a huge population. So they look at it and they see a danger for what they promote, danger for their ideology, danger for the whole thing that they're trying to create in the land of Israel, because they see and think to themselves, well, if people saw this and saw that there is a possibility that it is possible for an Arab Israeli and a Jewish Israeli to work together in the same company and pay the same taxes and go to the army and do their military service and all of that, they view that as a danger.
Yeah, the narrative will be smashed.
Because everything will be crumbling down. Everything will be crumbling down, because then it basically signals to them that peace is possible, that shared existence between people from different ethnicities is possible, and they're not interested in that. So when I saw on October 7th them coming out and kidnapping people from our own community. Not only that, I've seen people from my own community standing up, rising up. So, for example, in Rahat, which is, I think, the largest Bedouin city in Israel. So they opened a donation center for the families and the people who are affected in both the south and the north. And people came and donated clothes, food, stuff like that. And for somebody who is not an Israeli, that might seem surprising. Like,
For me, it is very surprising because, like, obviously, like, I've said a few times, I'm from London, and I know the narrative in London. Like, everything people say in London, because I'm from East London.
Right.
And I don't want to say too much about it, but I'm from East London, guys. So it gets really crazy out there.
Right.
And I'm more around pro-Palestinians.
Right.
And I have no issue with Palestine.
Right.
Like, for me, as a person,
True.
I believe in, like, maybe I'll say self-determination for Israel and Palestine. I want there to be I want the two-state solution. For me, logically, that's what makes sense.
Right.
If I was Israeli, maybe I'll have thought differently. But for me, I feel it makes sense. Like, Israel, Palestine, side by side, live in peace. But in London, they go from the river to the sea. And I tried to find out what it meant. I thought maybe they meant maybe the prisoners in Israel should be freed. Not until someone explained to me that no, from the river to the sea. Is it from the Mediterranean to the Jordan, something like that? They want to take the whole, so they want Israel wiped off the face of the map. And if I go, oh guys, there should be a two-state solution, they go, no. So these are what people are telling me. They don't want a two-state solution. They said Israel is illegal. Israelis came and took over a land. Palestinians were living in peace forever. Israelis were facing the Holocaust, and they were brought in. Like, imagine bringing in a visitor to your house and them taking over. That is the story that we hear. That is the narrative that I know. So coming here and then finding. wait. I have to let this sink first, guys. Let this sink in. This is Israel. They say Israel. This is Israel. He is an Arab. 1. 2, he's a Muslim. Now, let's top it up. He's black.
Tall, black, and handsome, baby. Tall, black, and
honestly, like, for me, it just didn't make sense.
Right.
So that's why I was like, I really need to talk to you because I want to know, like, the unfiltered truth, the raw truth. Like, on my channel, a lot of people, some people say, am I pro-Israel? Am I pro-Palestine? Do I hate Palestinians? Who do I support?
True.
And I tell them, in life you can take your sides. But me, my side, I've only got one side. I'm on the side of the facts. Show me the facts on the ground.
True.
And once I know the facts on the ground, I put it together with logic. And then I tend to find the truth in it. But me, I want to push people to think. That's the side I'm on. Just think, that's the side I'm on. But yeah, honestly, it doesn't make sense to me. It almost feels like you're illegal.
It doesn't make sense to a lot of people, mate. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people.
How does that even make you feel?
Oh my God! I mean, sometimes the thing is that I don't necessarily like identity politics, right? So, like, when I come and when I make my content, I write in my profile that I'm an Israeli Arab for people to read and see, right? But I don't come usually and say, like, as an Arab, this is what I think, or as a black person, this is what I think. Why? Because I want people to listen to my voice and listen to my opinion, right? And not make judgment based on my identity or based on my skin color and all of that, because this is what I want. To the point that even Israelis, when they see me in the street, sometimes they look at me and start talking to me in English. In English. And I'm like, guys, I speak Hebrew perfectly, so you guys can talk to me in Hebrew, you know that, right? And like, oh my God, we thought and it's very hilarious. It's very funny because to me it seems like it's working to an extent. By the way, I wanted to tell you something. Since I speak Arabic fluently, the saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. In Arabic, it's a different version. In Arabic, it's من المية للمية فلسطين عربية, which is from the river to the sea, Palestine will be Arab. Not Jewish, not Israeli, Palestine will be Arab. So it even put a lot more emphasis, right, on the idea that, Jews are not indigenous to the land of Israel, which historically is incorrect, right? Jews don't have the right to self-determination in their ancestral homeland. Again, incorrect. In that Jews don't get to continue to live in this place, right? And when you go back to the history, then the fascinating thing about the Jewish faith overall is that it's very easy to historically to look back and find records, archaeology, right? You can find records, you can find research, you can find historical text, religious text, not only historical but also religious. All of it show records that shows that the Jews throughout all this time have been consistent in living in the land of Israel. Maybe at some point the land itself was colonized or conquered, for example, by the Ottomans, it was by the Romans, so it was different groups, different empires that colonized the land of Israel, and the Jews at the time didn't really have self-determination. I mean, there only been few periods in which they had self-determination and had self-ruling on their land. And it wasn't until 1948 that that was like finally we have our land, we have self-determination, we can have our own army to defend us, we can do all of this. And sadly, people look at this and instead of thinking to themselves, well, these people just went back and went back to their ancestral homeland. They see it and they think to themselves, these Jews are Europeans, they're white, they're colonizers, and then they don't have anything to do with the region. And funny thing is, you've been here, man. You've seen people around, right? The funny thing is that more than 50% of the people in the state of Israel are not what you could classify as traditionally white, not Caucasians. And even those who are Ashkenazi Jews and are white, they trace their roots all the way back again to the Middle East. See? So it's like if you take the face value of it, you can almost guarantee that more than 85% of the state of Israel is not the white colonized or whatever thing that they have in mind, which is crazy. All you have to do is just walk around and see that with your eyes.
Yeah, I mean, so the things that we hear about Israel, in the West,
right?
How, do they get pushed out? Why are people ignorant of what's going on in Israel's society and how things are? Because what I heard and what I've seen are completely opposite. It's like north and south, completely. I didn't expect so. Obviously, I checked the media to see what's going on in Israel, and I heard, according to the media, Israelis, like you said, white, blonde hair, blue eyes, Europeans, right? And they say, if you're a black person in this country, you get treated as a second-class citizen, you get spat upon as a Christian, Arabs, complete discrimination. They're not allowed into the country. They're treated like dogs. That is what we hear. And Arab, the Muslims don't want to come here. They're trying to take over. They're trying to claim back Jerusalem.
That being said, you asked me about my opinion unfiltered, right?
Yes.
That being said, I mean, I've been living here for 28 years, right? Throughout all my life here, I rarely experienced racism or persecution.
And you know you're Muslim.
Right, and I know I'm
pray?
Muslim. And I don't pray. I'm not, how can I say this?
So you're moderate?
I'm very, no, not moderate, I would say. I'm not that religious of a person, right? But I know my history and I know my religion, but I'm not religious in that extent, right? But I grew up in a Muslim household. Obviously, my dad prays, my mom prays. But me specifically, I'm not necessarily a person who.
But do they know about your views?
They know about my views. They know everything about my views, right?
Any backlash at all?
And not backlash at all. That being said, I've never experienced prejudice and racism, and the little racism that I did experience didn't come from Jews, didn't come from Jewish Israelis. Sadly, it came from my own community, my Arab community, right? And it came from the same people who spoke the same language as me, followed the same faith as me, eat the same food as me, and all of that. And sadly, this is the part in my life in which I experienced racism. For example, you have black Arabs living in the country itself, and if you go back to our history, right, we are sadly products of one of the longest slave trade that happened in the Middle East, in the region, which is the Arab slave trade that lasted from the 7th century up until I think the British abolished it.
Yeah,
which is,
I heard about
which
it.
is again, which is for me, I'm very grateful
It's
for that.
another topic
Right,
again.
right. Thank you, England. Thank you for that. Right. So up until then, right, in this land, the land of Israel, for example, during the Ottoman rule and during the Ottoman occupation, was also a major trading hub for African slaves. And according to rough estimates, there have been in between 10 to 18 million. I looked, and there's different numbers, but that is like the most conservative estimate. Between 10 to 18 million Africans who were shipped from, not shipped, but taken from Africa throughout 1,300 years, right?
Wow.
And what's unique about it is that the men were taken and they were castrated, and they were used for labor or for war, depending. And the women were used in harems and as sex slaves, sadly. And that was
Disgusting.
and that, sadly, this is in some parts of the Middle East, it still happens today. I mean, I've seen reports about Ethiopian women coming to Yemen and being traded as slaves by the Houthis, which is another designated terrorist organization that controls parts of Yemen.
That's something I need to look into.
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
I mean, you also see reports from Libya,
I've heard of
especially,
Libya.
especially
Even
in
Nigerian women, I've heard of that, but I don't know how true. Because for me, it's just like claims. Or
yeah,
rumors.
yeah.
Sorry to cut you.
So I looked at the reports, I looked at data, I looked at institutions that research these kind of things to understand, like, to an extent. But yeah, this is major part of our history. Even in Gaza itself, I mean, you have also black population that lives there, and I've also read articles from there of people experiencing racism from Hamas and from the local government, and they say, well, when we want to marry, like, it's very difficult for us, and to be part of the society, it's very difficult for us because we always being judged by the color of our skin, right?
Yeah.
So when I hear people telling me, like, how do you support the state of Israel? How do you support Zionists who are, white supremacists? That they think. That they look at you and consider you as a slave. I joke about it and tell, well, what is it, guys? Do you want me to stand with my historical oppressors? The ancestors of the people who brought us to the Middle East and enslaved us, against the Jews and the Jewish country that gave me a home and that defends me without even asking me to do anything? Which is, I laugh about it, but it is a serious matter. Yeah.
I mean, sorry to cut you short. Because
Sure.
there's just so much going through my mind. I'm just trying to organize everything and just
Right,
calm
right.
down. How can people become more knowledgeable about the true state of Israel? Because what I've seen and what I've heard are completely different. Would it be the fault of Israel for not sharing it out to the whole world? Because there's this narrative.
I think
what
two
are they doing
things.
to combat it?
I think one thing is that, in my opinion, we're not doing such a good job in
Your
making
PR
sure.
industry needs.
Yeah. Come on, man. Like,
Help.
we know how to fight wars. We know how to do all of this when it comes to public speaking.
Very well. When it comes to fighting wars, you guys know how to do it
Yeah,
very well.
yeah,
Technology, you know that
Yeah,
very
of
well.
course,
but
of
the
course.
PR,
Of course.
mate, you have everything working for you.
Yeah.
You have every opportunity to shatter the
True.
narrative. Like, you obliterate it, and the whole world will be like, effing now. You have it all.
True. The thing is, and this is my criticism for my country, is that for a very long time, the foreign ministry, for example, and that in many countries, this is like, the ministry that is, the foreign ministry, the tourism ministry, all of these small ministries,
Yeah.
departments are responsible for, like, exposing or, like, showing the people the country and what's going on with it, right? And many of these, sadly, ministries have been underfunded for many years. Some of it has to do also with the fact that our defense budget is the largest out of all of our
Has to
budgets.
be. You fight
So,
almost daily.
by the way, in Israel, like, the top 3 ministries that get all the funding and most of the funding and most of the money is the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Education is second, and the Ministry of Health, right? So these are all 3 core things that enable us, the Israeli society, to be, to manage, like, to live and to do, like, the basic things of surviving in this region. So a lot of it is due to that, right? having said that, now the criticism for the other side is that it's very difficult when you have to compete with massive numbers. It's very difficult that when you have to go and Twitter and Reddit and all these places that recently have been filled with nasty type of anti-Semitism, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Nasty type of anti-Semitism, and also it's even more difficult, especially if you have state-funded, let's say, news organizations like Al Jazeera, for example, that pumps out a lot of that anti-Israeli bias in the Middle East and the world right now, which is again very difficult to counter that and very difficult to come out and say. So, obviously there's a lot of things that we can do to improve our situation. You can have more people like me, tall, dark, black, and handsome, talking about
You get
Israel.
me? Come on,
You know,
chocolate.
chocolate. Obviously, you can have more than that. But also, we need to understand that we are limited in terms of our capabilities. So we can do what we know best, which is to develop our technology, share that with the world, invite people to come in, and hopefully, people will see more of my country, and then they'll have their own judgment and their own opinion. And also, that being said, fun fact, I mean, Israel is not the only, Israel and the whole conflict right now between Israel and Hamas is not the only conflict that is going on in the Middle East. There's like roughly 20 more armed conflict going on in the Middle East, North Africa, and Africa, right? A lot of things
Africa,
happening.
yes, I know.
All right, a lot of sad things happening in the world right now.
Sudan,
Yeah, of course. And there's only one place, one country, that it gets all the scope.
it dominates the news.
And it's crazy.
Like you walk down the road, you're not very interested in politics. You're walking down the road, you're hearing stuff. You're seeing headlines. You're seeing graffitis on the wall. Like you even hear kids talking and saying things. You ask questions. They go, "Oh no, we just know that this country just took over this country." What do you know?
Right.
Nothing.
Right. And the funny thing is, it's like a lot of people have their own opinions, obviously, but most of it comes from social media in these places, and it's very easy to become a content creator. Those days you can just open a YouTube channel, review music, and you do all of that, and spread your beautiful ideas. It's very easy to do that, and nowadays we have very nefarious actors who try to push anti-Western ideas in the Western society, in the Western mind. For example, I think during the war, a couple of months after the war, there was a letter to America, a letter that Bin Laden wrote to the American people following 9/11. In which he basically had said what his reasoning for attacking America, and also put some of the blame on Israel. It's like, because you guys support Israel and the state of Israel, we view you as the enemy and we're attacking you. And that letter became viral on TikTok, and you've seen people, young people, right, still ages 18, 19 on TikTok, trying to justify 9/11 and trying to justify the thoughts of a radical man coming from a very radical organization, to say, well, the West is evil. All we do in the world is evil. All we do in the world is very, very bad. And of course people are going to hate us. Of course you're going to have radical terrorist organizations that want us destroyed. And this is something that is very dangerous.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it comes from, lack of trust in institutions. I mean, obviously, I know just a little bit about UK politics. I don't know a lot.
Oh my God, UK politics. Let's not even go into that because it's going to be a long one.
So I know just a little bit about UK politics. But obviously you have many places in which, in Western societies, in which people lost faith in institutions, right? So losing faith in politicians, and it's very easy to be a populist who's going to come out and say all the nasty things, the radical things that that people want to hear, and it's very easy to capture that and capture a movement, right? But with all of this, lack of trust in institutions, it doesn't need to lead in a way in which we need to crumble and completely dismantle our entire society just because of that. Because we have enemies in the world, the world is big, is beautiful, but not all of it filled with people who wish good things to you, obviously. And when somebody says, I want to kill you, I take them seriously when that happens.
I believe them. Absolutely.
I take them seriously.
Yeah, even when I get comments on Twitter or on YouTube or even my Instagram, anyone says something like that, I do believe them. I don't just take it with a pinch of salt. That is
Right.
a threat. Anyway, I want to talk about your content because
me.
I see that we're
Right,
running.
right.
So your content, like I said, what inspired you? And you mentioned
October 7th, yeah, and
October
October
7th
7th,
as
true,
well.
true.
Like, so what is the drive behind it? What do you, what message like do you want to give to the public? Like, what was the thing that was on your heart that you felt like I want the whole world, to see this, because you make me laugh, to be honest. Like, I see you with your cup of coffee,
Yes,
and you
yes,
just
yes.
have this this poker face, and you say something like, oh, the award, the Karen of the Year awards goes to.
Exactly.
The clip plays, and I watch it, and I'm like, oh my god, like how you do it.
That is true. That is
like,
true.
How did you even get to like deciding that medium? And that style.
Right. So first thing first, it took me a lot of time to understand if that is something that I want to do and how do I want to do it. Obviously, I developed a very nasty caffeine addiction. Very nasty caffeine addiction to the point that I drink like 3-4 cups of coffee a day.
I don't know why it was funny.
No, it's true. It's true. It's crazy. To this point, I think coffee doesn't affect me anymore. Like I drink a cup of coffee and go to sleep, just like that, just like a baby. So for me, it was like, okay, what is the approach that I can take that wouldn't be hostile to people, would be informative, would be funny, because people respond to humor, and also humor has a way of healing trauma and connecting to people, and something that wouldn't be, I would say, divisive, right? And not radical thoughts and stuff like that. So I needed to find a way to really reach out to as many people that I can, and that was my way of doing that. It was a little bit of humor, a lot of realism, not being affected by necessarily by mean comments and stuff like that, which is very Israeli, by the way. I mean, you've seen it.
I've seen it here.
You've seen it. I mean, by the way, like just an example, we sat down with one of the former hostages, Ohad Ben Ami and Ghaz Ben Ami, who've been in captivity, captured by Hamas, and you've seen them, like they sat down, like they're laughing, talking, even joking about their own horrifying experience.
I was like, this is a classic example of Schadenfreude. So Germans call it
Right.
laughing at your calamity.
Right. So it's like,
I can't do that.
so like you take you understand, like it's like you can't really all the time be depressed and negative about it, because then you wouldn't be able to do anything, and it's very difficult. So for example, when you look at people like this who experience captivity and been underground and like 30 meters underground in very unhumane conditions, coming out and like making jokes and laughing about the times that they've been there, and also talking about their horrific experience as well, it's like it needs a lot of resilience to do that.
Well, there's something he said that really touched me.
Right.
He said after the whole experience and everything,
Right.
that he doesn't wish death to them, that he wants to see if there's a way he can reach
Even
out
more
to them.
than that, he said, even if after everything, I will not put my captive in the same conditions that.
Oh yeah, yes, he said that as well. He won't put his own captives in the same condition.
Right.
I looked at this man, I was like,
It's like really, turn the other cheek to an extent.
because for me, what touched me was that his family, himself, his wife were there. As a man, you feel like I need to protect this human.
Of course, yeah.
But they were there together. He was just there. He was helpless looking at that. Even that is enough to hurt, like the male pride.
True.
To be like, I'm gonna get these people. I'm gonna end them.
True.
But no, he came back. He was like, oh no, he's not gonna put them even through that condition at all. He
Right.
said he doesn't think humans should be there.
There was no.
Is that an Israeli way of thinking, or is that special to him?
I think from my experience, it's a very Israeli way of thinking, and also it has a lot of emphasis, a lot of inspiration from Jewish faith as well, because in the Jewish faith, one person is a whole world, and the value of lives has a lot of emphasis and a lot of importance for people, right? So this is why, for example, when it comes to our military, even though people say horrible things about our IDF troops and stuff like that, there are things, for example, that they don't necessarily know. For example, when during the war, when there's like a specific place in which you have members of Hamas organization hiding, for example, in infrastructure that's sadly civilian, because this is where they hide, the IDF will send text messages to the people in the area, send leaflets from airplanes, stuff like that. Maybe even an hour before that, just to make sure that people evacuate, and it's a thing, because when you do that and you warn the entire population that this is an area that you guys need to evacuate, you're also warning the guys that you're trying to get.
Yeah, exactly. So
And
no surprise.
so even there's no surprise factor. So even that is, even the price of understanding that maybe we will not be able to get, the members of the, designated terrorist organization, right? It's saving lives is still worth it. That being said, obviously war is devastating. We've seen like, civilian casualties in Gaza, and that was, again, sad. It's very sad. But in my opinion, when it comes to the consequences of the war and the responsibility for the war, it falls upon the entity that launched it.
Yeah.
And it launched when Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad decided to, cut the borders and go and kill and rape and kidnap and do all of these horrible things to, civilians who were just minding their own things, right? So that is the value of life is very important. This is why, for example, I feel very comfortable walking in Israel, even though you can walk and see somebody like, with his service, with his service PPU on him and stuff like that. I know that this person had been trained very thoroughly, had psychological background, evaluation, and all these kind of things. So it makes me feel very safe, knowing that okay, if anything happens, God forbid, knock on wood, if anything happens, there are people that I can trust, to protect me and all of this. So I think it has to do with both of this, and also when it comes to our resilience. It's like we don't really have another choice, man. We don't really have a choice. It's like if we don't become strong by choice, if we don't develop that core resilience and that strength within ourselves, we're gonna crumble and fall as a society. And I keep telling people, people ask me like, how do you draw your faith? Like, how do you have all of this optimism? Like, it's like I don't put necessarily my faith in the government or military or institutions and stuff like that. I put my faith in the nation and the people. And what I've seen from the people of Israel throughout October 7 has been absolutely tremendous, from thousands of millions of people in squares calling for the hostages to be released, from people who went on reserve duty to fight and protect their people, protect my own family, right, do all of that and come back and work in their high-tech company and move the economy a little bit and make sure that everything is running. Teachers who go to school and then go to fight the war and go back to school, students, my friends who just I have a good friend of mine, we graduated together, and he couldn't begin his professional career because the war began. So he spent the last 2 years, putting all his life on hold, and all he did was serve. All he did was serve. So you see that a lot.
Massive.
Yeah, you see that a lot. And obviously, mate, we have our own problems. Like we fight with ourselves. We argue about us. Like for example, right now there is a huge debate in Israel about mandatory military service. Right.
Oh, about the religious ones not going.
True. So the criticism of those who mostly the Orthodox Jewish side of it is that we want to study Torah, we want to study Judaism, we want to study and focus on that, and we believe that by going to the army, it's gonna take us away from our community and affect our way of life. And then the argument on the other side is, well, we guys here live in the same country, and it's the weight of protecting the country falls upon mostly on one part of the population, right? So how like we need you also to pull your weight to contribute it. So this is like a huge major debate right now in Israel, and people talking about this obviously, and it's not easy. It's not easy because it puts the Israeli society in a corner in which, like, what direction we want to move as a whole, as a country, and where do you want to go, right? And these things happen in our country. Like, prior to October 7th, there was also a lot of political discourse regarding changes in the judicial system in the country, right? And obviously you had massive protests and the people who were in favor of these changes and the people who were against these changes. But still, all of it was democratic. So we fight, we shout, we joke, we do all of this. And
that's like a normal family.
Yeah.
My family as well.
Exactly.
We do everything together. We fight, but we keep it among ourselves.
True, we keep it in the house.
If any force comes from outside to threaten our family unit, then that force is going to know that this is a family you don't mess with. But within ourselves, we have our issues.
Right,
yeah,
of course.
It's not their business, it's our business. Anyway, I don't want to run, we're kind of running out of time.
Oh, yeah, it feels like we can talk for 6 hours, mate.
There's so much I want to talk about. There's just so much.
True.
I just want to cut it short. There are just two things I want to go into. One is about the PR, because we talked about Israeli PR.
Right.
I'm saying that you already have the content in this country.
Sure.
You don't need propaganda. You just need to show what is here.
Sure.
You know, what do you think the government can do? Because even if the budget is little, I believe there must be some way. You know, either maybe just push it out there, share it, or but we don't hear it. We don't hear of anything. If you don't come to Israel, you don't know what's going on.
True.
Like my experience here, if someone had told me, I'd just laugh. I'd be like,
Right.
relax.
Well,
You know?
well, I have this. In my opinion, I think at least we have. So you have obviously you have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and you have the Ministry of Tourism. You have the Ministry of the Foreign of the Prime Minister. You have all these kind of ministries there. And sometimes when it comes to jurisdiction for specific things that let's say affect our PR, you have these jurisdictions distributed between different ministries, right? So, for example, the Ministry of Tourism will do something about tourism and focus on that, but the Ministry of let's say Foreign Affairs will focus on that cadet course and official diplomats and all of that. In my opinion, I think that one of the best things that we could do as a society is centralize all these responsibilities and jurisdiction into one ministry, which is the foreign ministry, right? I want it to become at least the fourth or the third, let's say, most funded ministry in that case. That being said, I also want, hopefully, I want to see that. I want to see our government incentivizing private businesses, right? Startups, right? Like young Jewish and Arab entrepreneurs and Israeli entrepreneurs who are very passionate about, fintech, cybersecurity, right? Agriculture, all of that. I want as much as encouragement to those specific areas, because I think that this is like one of our strongest assets. And also, I mean, we Israelis are very much solution oriented, right? So like if we have a problem, we need to think of like 10,000 other solutions to fix that problem. So the moment you have a very strong and dominant tech sector, not only in Tel Aviv but also in the south and the north and all of that, at some point, you're gonna see more and more people coming and making that kind of content and making that videos and making impact. So you don't really need somebody like me to come in with video and talk about this, because then you have like a really cool company like Wiz or like Waze, right? They're making massive like waves in the tech sector.
Yeah.
Then you have like companies in the cybersecurity systems that are very predominant, and like that speaks for itself. Why? Because the work speaks for itself. You hear a lot of people talking about let's boycott Israeli goods.
I've heard it
and
so
it's like
much.
there's a
I'm
lot
like,
of Israeli technology that you can't boycott because it's
cannot.
very necessary.
It's essential.
It's not because you can't actively boycott. It's like, but it's very necessary. Like medical technology, fintech technology. Like for example, in the University of Tel Aviv, that was the first time they managed to make an organ transplant of an organ that was developed and 3D printed. 3D printed, mate.
Oh, bro.
It's like I keep thinking like maybe I can 3D print chicken for dinner, But like I was looking at like this is awesome. We have technology.
It's too funny. 3D print chicken.
3D printing chicken, right? Like we have technology that enable us, to make our water clean. Right, and I see like countries like Iran, for example, and I say this because
don't have water.
like they're having massive droughts, and I see this and I was like, this is sad, right? If we have the technology to
can
solve
help
that,
you.
we have the technology to do that, right? And again, like I love the Iranian people. I have a lot of criticism and a lot of things to say about the Iranian regime and the Ayatollahs, but like we have all this technology. We want to help. We want to do that, right? So I think in those regard, those two things, centralizing all of these jurisdictions would help a lot. Investing in promoting and helping people and from the also educational sector to go into the tech sector and boost that will help a lot. I think also people like me need to find the courage to come out and speak, talk about their experience and not necessarily about politics. Like you can talk about, hey, I want to review Israeli food, man. I want to walk around and review Israeli music, right? Like I want to talk about the dating scene in Tel Aviv, right? And you do all of these, and you don't have to talk about like in politics, because then people people will see that and they will make opinions by themselves, and I think that is very important.
That's very important. I believe, left to me, I believe something that will really save a lot of Israeli and Jewish lives, right? And something that will really cut down on anti-Semitism is if people get to know about the true Israel. You don't need an advocate to go and
True.
say, oh, Israel is not this, Israel's not this. You don't need that. Just talk about the place, about the things that are there. Israel itself, its existence, right? It already obliterates the narrative that I've heard. Completely ends it. Anyway, and
I just wanted to say one more thing. For those who wanna visit my country, always welcome.
I like how you
always
call it my country.
My
I like
country. It's mine. It's mine. No one will take it from me. It's mine. And want to visit and meet our people. For example, in State of Israel, we don't stamp passports of people who come. Why? Because we understand that you might come from a country that not necessarily we have diplomatic relations with, and it may be somebody maybe like you're British, so like you come, you visit, and you get your passport stamp that you visit Israel, and let's say you go to Lebanon, for example, or Syria right now under the current governments, maybe then you have a problem. So a strategic decision was made. We don't stamp passport. So if you guys want to come and visit, and you're afraid that it's gonna affect, how people are gonna think about you, like maybe you visiting other countries in the Middle East or stuff like that, you can just come. You can just visit, and you don't have to publicize it. You don't have to come with your camera and talking like you say, hey, I'm in Israel, guys. Like let's see, you don't have to do that. You can just come. Be yourself, eat the good food, meet, talk with people, and have your own opinion.
Yeah,
and have your own opinion.
Absolutely,
Man.
I love that.
Yeah.
And finally, what message do you have for the world? Something to just tell the people.
Oh my God, I think the most important message is, in the age of social media, it feels like we have all the means of communication to talk with each other, but you don't really talk with each other, right? So having tough conversation and sitting, and I sat down with every member of every group in the Israeli society and talked to them, and some of those were difficult conversations to have about the future of our country and where we want it to be. So in my opinion, I think having conversation and talking, right, and not letting corrupt politicians diverge us from what we are, because eventually the true merit of a nation is the people of the nation, and not necessarily their politicians. That being said, another message that I have for the people in the UK, right? Well, I have a lot of love and respect for the UK and British history as well, and I think I'm not that deep knowledgeable about UK politics, but for example, what I've seen in the UK, for me at least, is very concerning. From jihadist forces coming out and under the guise of anti-Israeli things, they come out and I see them, harming the British society to an extent. When I see lawyers coming out and saying, what, we want to remove Hamas from the designated terrorist organization, like British lawyers, right? I think that is very, very problematic for the British society as a whole facing forward, right? And I'm not telling you guys how to run your country, okay? I don't like it when people come and tell me how to run my country, right? But in my opinion, I am very concerned for what's happening in Western society right now, and I think we need to be brave, and we need to talk about, have difficult conversations, and we need to find a way to protect our national interest. I think that is important. And yeah, guys, come and visit. I mean, the UK, I don't know when I'll be there. In Nigeria, I'm hoping to visit. That would be awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, let's get it.
Wow, thank you so very much for coming on here. I really appreciate it. You're so knowledgeable. Honestly, I really love it. That's one reason why I really like watching your content and listening to you. I don't get bored.
Same.
And then when it starts getting long, then you make us laugh as well.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, that's it. Let's go again. More.
Let's get it.
Anyway, guys, you heard it here first. Here chilling with. Listen to this. An Arab.
Hit him.
Muslim.
Hit him.
Black.
Hit him.
Israeli.
Let's go.
Mic drop.
Let's go.
Crazy.
Let's go.
All right, guys, make sure you smash like, subscribe, give him some love. Also, I'm going to leave the link to his channel. Instagram, actually. You have a YouTube channel?
I do have a YouTube channel as well.
I'm going to find it. So, guys, I'm going to leave the link to his YouTube channel and his Instagram. Make sure you check him out. All right, guys, subscribe to him. Give him some love. All right, guys. It's going to be a peace out.
See ya.
Yeah, now we're going to walk around, yeah?
Now we have to
Let's get it. Hey. I'm so happy about this. I'm so happy about this. Bye, guys.
This was awesome.